Thank you, Kalpat. I think it's a pleasure to meet the people who love children and strabismus. For me, it's always a pleasure. So it's nice to see this gathering. I'm here to deliver the footnote on complications of strabismus surgery. And especially when we're dealing with children, we have to be extra careful because they can be more tricky. The complications can be of two kinds: the errors of omission when you have misdiagnosed, or it may be a faulty planning, or it may be errors of commission. When you are not careful, you can make such mistakes, and that can be surgical mishaps which are mostly avoidable. So we have to go in this thing, first of all, that like cataract surgery, squint is not to be done spot diagnosis and spot surgery. We have to be aware of apparent squints, which may be pseudo-strabismus, pseudo-esotropia, or pseudo-exotropias, and you have to be just observant and careful. And simple tests like cover test with your thumb itself for a child, you can do it to know that. Secondly, we have to have proper cycloplegic refraction and prescription given to the child before we jump onto surgery. Sometimes you may have corrected it partially and commit the mistake of doing the partial accommodative surgery, which again will be a conjunctive exo as the refractive error comes down over a period of time. You have to use fixation devices like these for children. Torch lights are totally banned. We have to use toys and different toys because the attention span of the child is short. You need to have a battery of toys with you, both for distance and for near fixation. And then you have to see in different directions, which I think most of you must be doing for A and B patterns. We have to look up. Like this child, in the primary position there is ortho, but looking down there is an ESO, and looking up there is an exo. So this is primarily an inferior oblique overaction which needs to be operated and not the horizontal surgery at all. So we have to be careful about that, and if you have planned it properly and executed, then you will get the correction in all the 9 cases. You will have corrected the exo above, ESO down, and as well as the inferior oblique overactions. It may be asymmetric at times, so you have to be careful and you have to plan your surgery for the inferior oblique more in the eye which is having more severe reaction. Similarly, exotropias can be missed by people, and this child was operated by somebody else. He did a very good surgery, horizontal alignment is there in the primary position, and the person is not happy because looking down there is exo, a marked exo, because he missed out the superior obliques, and this should not happen. So then we have to do as a second procedure a superior oblique weakening procedure. Similarly, distance and near both can be disparate. And we have to see for distance what is the deviation, and for near. Sometimes you have a divergence excess exo, or you may have a convergence insufficiency exotropia, which you need to see, and what you require is just observation and confirmation. So near distance disparities both for ESO and exo you have to keep in mind. Then the limitation of movements on the side gazes. Lateral incompetence can be there in intermittent exotropias, so you have to undercorrect such cases. Binocular status again needs to be examined. You look for the correspondence and amblyopia, look for the DVDs which may be hiding behind and you would have missed, and then they will jump up later on. Spot diagnosis, yes, you have to be careful. Any head posture should not be missed, and correct the head posture before you measure the deviations. Look for the torsions again. You need to examine them, and if the child is not helping you in that subjective correction, you can just look objectively into the fundus and see the relationship of the fovea and the disc. Now this is showing you an extorsion. These are the upper limit and the lower limit, and this is showing you an intorsion. So you have to be aware of these things. A simple indirect ophthalmoscopy will tell you that this is there. Other things are looking at the face as such. There may be a plagiocephaly, and that will lead you to think that there might be problems in the oblique muscles because of the positioning of the trochlea. Now the trochlea in such a case is going to be because this coronal suture is fused on a 3D structure, you can see, and there is going to be an inferior oblique overaction because of a desagittalized or underacting superior oblique because of its position here, as you see here, right? This is a normal, and this is the one which is desagittalized superior oblique. Then there can be sagittalization. A forward propulsion because of a forehead bulging can give you an exotropia, and you have to be aware of these cases in children again, and simple observation confirmation. Diagnosis DRS versus lateral rectus palsy. You cannot forgive yourself if you have done a resection in such a case. Measurements can never be done by Hirschberg's test. Even in a child, use the prisms, even though you may be having a more short examination that you will have to do, but you always use the prism bar cover test. Never put prisms over the prisms, but split them over the two eyes. Whenever the child is having high refractive errors, like aphakic children sometimes we have, then you have to be aware of this induced prismatic effect which may be there with the plus lenses, and the minus lenses will make you read it more than what it is. And there are tables available in the books, or you can use formulas which are there in the books to calculate the right deviation which is there. You have to take no chances in strabismus, and you can get perfect results if you are observant about these things. The binocular testing, again, you have to look for the Bagolini striated glasses, very simple test, and you can do it. The goal, I always tell people, it is not 6:3 vision for us. It is not just J1 vision also by giving accommodative IOL. It is giving back the stereopsis that God gave every child to be born. We have to move from squint and sight alone to stereopsis. You have to see that the child has to see 3D stereopsis, both for near if you have fine, or distance, still better if you have a distance stereopsis. If nothing else, you can do a Lang's 2 pencil test which will tell you if there is stereopsis there or not. How much surgery should I do? Now this is a question which many people will ask. There are tables available, but these are always the statutory warning, just like the cigarette packages, that use it at your own risk. You can start with that, but you have to change them, moderate them as per your own surgical techniques. You have to be aware of the safe limits for the functional equator being little anterior in case of medial rectus and posterior for the lateral rectus. So you have larger limits for the lateral rectus up to 9 in adults and 6 in adults for medial rectus, but in children it has to be 0.5 less for each. So be aware of these because the globe is smaller. Proper planning is very important. Now this strabismus strictus convergence, if we do a MRI of this orbit, what you will see here, the superior rectus and the inferior rectus here. This is the medial rectus, this is the IR, this is the superior rectus, all are on the nasal compartment, and the lateral rectus is down below here. If you resect this muscle, what will you do? You will only cause the globe to go down. It will never correct the esotropia. And just doing an MR resection will not help. So you need to transpose the superior rectus and the lateral rectus up here by doing a loop myectomy. Iatrogenic problems can be there in this problem. Intraoperative, when you are using anesthetic local, you have to be aware of the dose. And sometimes we do bilateral surgery. Don't inject the same amount in both the eyes simultaneously. It may overshoot the dose. Many of the children or even the girls may be just for 40 kgs, and you will easily overshoot the dose of that. And then the techniques must have been already shown to you by the videos. But intraoperative perils can be easily avoided by knowing simple rules. You have to be aware of this. Don't operate in the wrong eye, don't operate in the wrong muscle, or wrong operation performed, recession versus resection. You have to have a written plan in front of you when you are operating. Shifting in the reverse direction, hemorrhages, and scleral perforation. These are all avoidable, and you can thank yourself if you have done a good job. Avoiding the wrong rectus muscle. I mean, this is again very commonly happened by people, that the superior rectus, remember, is more tangentially separated than the nasal end. The temporal end is more far away compared to the horizontal rectus. So, and measurements when you are taking, don't measure at the same point when you are holding, because this will shift the insertion by about 1 to 1.5 millimeter. And as Dr. Ramesh had shown, you can just pass sutures through the sheath and miss this muscle. So this can be avoided again. Avoid splitting of the recti, partial slippage, and if you have a slip